as a backup if we run out of material. Hello.
Good evening. Hi, it is going for 11 o'clock at night, but Ruth and I are up and have energy.
We sure are.
So we're gonna chat for a while. I actually, not me, you. We thought we would take a little break from political content and yap about other things that we care about. Conservation.
Yes. This is highly political, though.
It is political. Okay, everything's political, especially when you're talking about wildlife conservation. But we're happy to discuss other things that people want to talk about in the comments. But our set topic for this evening is maybe a little bit niche. So do you want to introduce? Oh, for people who don't know, I'm Angela. My channel's Parkwest Permaculture, and this is my eldest daughter, Ruth.
Hello.
And she is a fish and wildlife person. So, yeah. Okay. What is it that you wanted to chat about?
First, I wanted to show off my drink. I made the drink that they make at the Goth Club. It's lime juice and bubble water and coconut milk and pineapple juice, and it's very good.
That sounds vile. I'm gonna have a scotch.
It's delicious.
Okay, go ahead.
So I wanted to talk about monarch conservation, like the butterfly. Because people have been talking about it a lot recently because their population is down like 90% or something like that. And there are a couple very common misconceptions that I think the average person who has good intent... the average person who has good intent and wants to help them might actually be hurting monarchs. I know a lot of people will sell milkweed seeds on the TikTok shop and like use that to promote monarch conservation.
Oh my gosh, there's so many ads on TikTok shop for milkweed seeds. Yeah.
And honestly, I have no problem with that, but some people do kind of word it as like the only threat to monarchs is lack of milkweed, and that is not true. Well, first of all, a lot of people in the comments of that, or sometimes even the people selling milkweed, will say, I raised monarchs for class, or even like I raise monarchs and I have an Instagram page where I will take monarch caterpillars or eggs and raise them all the way into adult butterflies so that they don't get eaten by predators. And I think it really should be really common knowledge and spread to everyone everywhere that that is very bad. If you raise a monarch or any kind of migratory butterfly inside your house or even in a structure, if you put anything over their head, it messes with their internal navigation as it develops, and they will never make it as an adult. They will never be able to migrate. They'll just go in circles and die. But you don't know that because you're not following them on their migration.
Well, and because some company is selling you a kit to raise
that
monarchs,
could also be.
And like they don't have a right. It's damaging to their business model to tell you like, hey, if you do this, you're not actually helping, right? It feels a little greenwashy to me, right?
I didn't even think about that, honestly. I haven't really seen any kits for that being sold. I'm sure that they do exist. I'm sure that's a big thing. I think a big part of why this misinformation doesn't get corrected is people don't want to think about it. Basically, everyone in America that I know has at some point in their life raised a butterfly, like in captivity. Like we did it, I didn't even go to school, but I did it through one of our co-ops. Most people said they did it in like elementary school, or their town had I don't know, some way of doing it, but it's really bad. They use the magnetic fields of the earth, and they need to like be connected to that
as they metamorphose.
As they metamorphosize, and they have to be outside. So even all the studies I've read, even if you build an outdoor structure that's just like a little shelter for them, still that's too much interference, and every single one of those butterflies that they tracked never makes it to their migration. So that's...
You're taking us down, girl. Well, so the reason that we're talking about this, I guess, I'm sorry I'm not looking at questions. I'm really sorry, y'all. Feel free to ask questions. We're talking...
I don't see any right now.
Okay, good. We're talking about monarch conservation. So Ruth and I were chatting about this last night, and I spent a big chunk of my childhood in San Antonio. And I have these incredibly, like, just beautiful, powerful memories in my childhood of monarchs migrating down to Mexico. They would come through our yard, and you would come out one day and all of the scrub oak trees in the entire yard would just be coated, like caked in monarch butterflies. Everywhere you looked, the bird bath, my swing set, everywhere would just be coated in, this is the 80s, coated in monarch butterflies. And Ruth and I were discussing this within the context of abundance and how we live in this society that is so scarcity mindset, like preoccupied, focused. And we often think about humans as being a detriment, and we talk about how we're using up all of our resources. And I think we limit ourselves so much because we cannot conceptualize of the abundance that nature can produce, because we have done so much to reduce that abundance, to be a detriment instead of an asset to the ecosystem. And I just have these vivid childhood memories of going out, and it's just that short period as they're moving through on their way to Mexico, and they're stopping over to get a little break in our yard. That it would just, I don't even know how many, hundreds of thousands of monarchs on every single surface. And as a young child, that was so impactful for me. And it really gave me that visualization of the capacity of nature to create abundance, right? Using the energy of the sun, primary producers, and on down. Just unbelievable abundance. And we were also talking about how when I was a kid, I went to the San Antonio Zoo, and there was this display about Carolina parakeets and passenger pigeons. And I was moved to tears thinking about the way they were describing that the passenger pigeon flocks were so massive that they would block out the sun, the 2 million passenger pigeons. And how I would never see that, right? Because human beings drove them extinct. It's the same way you think about like the dodo bird or the great auk or any of these, I want to focus on birds because I'm a bird person, but the way you think about these species and how abundant they were, and what we've done to reduce that abundance, but that the earth has that capacity. So when we're talking about monarchs and how they're really in crisis now, I think that decline has happened just in my lifetime, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's just happened since I was a kid. And it makes me so sad to think that today's children will never be able to have that experience. So that's kind of how we got on the subject. Yeah. Okay, you were saying, continue.
Yeah, I'm just big on sharing conservation information. And another thing that I don't see anyone who is talking about monarch conservation on TikTok talking about, when, again, they sort of just frame it as it's just a lack of milkweed, because the other huge factor is their wintering grounds. So monarchs, their migration takes multiple generations. No one monarch lives to see the full migration. But that entire route is incredibly important for the species as a whole. They need that wintering ground in order for the entire species to survive. They will all need to migrate in the winter to a warmer climate. So the place where they migrate to is a forest in Mexico. And one of my friends is actually from the town where that forest is. And a big reason that people don't know about this is that there's a huge deforestation crisis in their overwintering grounds. There's a very famous conservationist named Homero Gomez Gonzalez, and he's Homero Gomez Gonzalez, he's a very famous monarch conservationist who basically discovered that this was, or at least discovered that we needed to keep this forest safe, and he dedicated his life to keeping that forest safe. The reason we need to keep it safe is because avocado companies will come into Mexico and they will deforest the overwintering grounds because it's really good land for growing avocados. So basically it's big avocado. It's the same thing as orangutan habitat with palm oil companies coming in and bulldozing the Amazon. It's the exact same thing, basically, but most people don't know about it. And the really unfortunate, tragic thing is that this famous conservationist, Homero, was unalived recently. Foul play, like big avocado unalived him. There was a documentary about it made recently, but my friend who is from the same town as him was telling me all about it, and his friends were saying like he like never cries about anything, but whenever he talks about monarchs and the conservationist Homero, he'd like start sobbing. But I want people to know, and I think I don't really know exactly what we can do about it other than spreading the word, talking about. You should probably watch the documentary. I think in English it's called the King of the Monarchs or something. It's a documentary on Netflix about his life's work and the foul play surrounding his unaliving. And also boycott avocados that were grown on Mexican land. I'm sure there are avocados that are not grown on illegally poached monarch habitat, but I don't know how to know that because all you see on the tag is where it was grown. So I would get them in other Latin American countries or California if you can.
The Center for Biological Diversity has this whole section on Beware Killer Guac, and it talks about how the popularity of avocados for American consumers is really driving this, right? Like Americans have the chance to impact for good. Like, you can blame it on Mexican cultivation, deforestation, and then cultivation, but we're the ones driving it.
Yeah, it's largely the American consumers, and also, again, like, we shouldn't just blame the residents of Mexico. The people who were in this town were huge on conservation. They were trying to stop this deforestation. It's the big corporations that are just coming in and using Mexican land and deforesting this critical habitat that, like, we're almost out of the habitat. If it's gone, monarchs are gone forever. It's not really like some species where we can just, like, have a spare population in captivity until we restore things. Like, monarchs, they'll just be gone. They have to be wild. They have to migrate.
The Center for Biological Diversity recommends that people purchase PFA certified avocados, but they said as American consumers, one of the ways that you have leverage is to pressure your local grocery store chains to adopt avocado sourcing from growers that do not basically contribute to deforestation of protected monarch habitat. And they were also talking about how, like, the habitat is protected. Like, they're coming in and cutting down the trees and habitat that's supposed to be... It's illegal. Yeah.
But they're doing it anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, killing people's illegal too. They're still doing it.
Yeah.
Big avocado bad.
Yeah, big avocado bad. Yeah.
Boycott avocados, plant milkweed. Yes. And don't raise baby monarchs in any kind of structure. Because if anyone joined new, that was the first thing I was talking about. If you ever raise a butterfly inside a structure, inside your house, inside a cage, anything to try and protect it from predators, that enclosure messes with its ability to develop navigation, and it will die. Because it will never migrate. It'll just go in circles and it won't make it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, people don't like to think about that because so many people have raised monarchs, like, as a class project, and they're like, oh, I've killed them. But it's okay. Just absolve your guilt by telling other people.
Which, thinking about this monoculture avocado cultivation, it really kills me because if you look at a permaculture way of growing avocados, they actually grow really well in a diverse polyculture food forest setting. Avocados thrive in that setting, but it's only because of industrial monoculture agriculture that we have to view them like antagonistically, right?
Why do things sustainably long term? Yeah. The line has to go up for the quarter.
Who raises them in cages?
Who raises them in cages? I know someone who raises them in cages.
No agave for tequila either. Yeah, I don't know a lot about agave cultivation and if they're cutting down forests for it.
The screens are also just as bad, unfortunately. The studies that I've read, it doesn't matter if it's inside your house, inside a glass cage, or even a mesh cage. All of the butterflies that they followed were not able to make their migration route because their internal sense of navigation was messed with. They need to be outdoors when they develop.
Yeah. The Xerxes Society has a whole thing on how to raise monarchs. It says it's a really good tool for education, but it's not good for conservation to breed monarchs. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like...
That sounds like a lot like zoos, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether you think of animals as sacrificial and it's worth the sacrifice of raising them and keeping them in captivity to spark people's interest and encourage people to invest, right?
I would almost say this is worse than zoos because people think that they are doing conservation when they do this, so they will try to ramp it up. Like, zoos, a lot of people's mindset is like, well, it might be unfortunate that this animal can't be released into the wild, and it's not ideal conditions to have it in captivity, but because it's non-releasable, we'll do our best, and it'll be an ambassador animal. They're not like, we have to get as many animals into the zoo as humanly possible to save the species. Which is people's mindset when they're raising monarchs, because they think they're doing a breeding program, but actually they're unfortunately detracting from the population. Yeah.
This is really interesting. I didn't know anything about I knew about the deforestation, but I didn't know anything about activists and conservationists in Mexico being targeted by big avocado. So
yeah.
Thanks for bringing it up. We're happy to talk about other things too. We just wanted to yap about this. So sometimes I feel like we have really heated conversations. Not heated like we're arguing, but passionate conversations. And
people tell us we should have a podcast.
Yeah, people tell us we should have a podcast. We should have B though, if she's home. Yeah. I think y'all could talk forever.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So. Yeah, are you blocking people? Yes. You have to click on the thing on the side.
Oh.
Thanks for being patient with us as we're learning how to do this. You can click down here.
No, that's turn something on. Well,
okay.
It turned something on.
Okay. Thanks for being patient. Yeah, it's just good to have a distraction. It's so hard, I think, to realize that all of this stuff is happening in the background. And one of the things that I get so frustrated with about all of the necessary political... You okay?
Yeah.
Did your drink attack you? All of the necessary political and human rights work we have to do is that all of the environmental stuff that corporations want to do to like F up the environment and exploit it and ruin it and pollute it is also happening in the background, right? One of the things that you brought up is a couple of months ago when, maybe it was in November, when the regime decided to allow forever chemicals, PFAS chemicals, to be used on our vegetables, especially lettuce. You and I talked about this because I know a lot of people were like, oh, I don't want PFAS in my food. But the really big risk is, yes, to the soil and the watershed, but it's really to the agricultural workers who are handling those chemicals day in and day out. And so it's impossible to have these environmental things not tie back to us, right? We're connected to the planet. And you can't really separate. In permaculture, we have earth care, people care, and fair share. You can't really separate people care and earth care at all.
Yeah,
it's connected.
That's part of fish and wildlife. What you're taught over and over is you can't separate managing humans from managing animals. And I hate when people try and pit it as humans or animals. No matter which side they're picking, if they're an animal rights activist or they're a human rights activist, and they're saying we have to abandon one for the other, that's what they want you to think. That's what you're only helping those corporations that are damaging both the environment and the humans who live in it.
Yeah.
It's never humans or animals. We're part of the environment. We live here.
Yeah. Someone in the comments said, I miss when you were able to talk about your chickens and fruit guilds, etc. Me too. I don't spend nearly as much time in my garden as I could. The poultry is really Ruth's specialty. She takes care of them a lot more than I do. We were out in the garden day before yesterday because the filbert in our backyard is in flower. The catkins are in flower. And Ruth said, it was really warm. What was it, like 55?
Yeah.
It was really warm and sunny in Portland right now. And Ruth was like, is there a swarm of bees in the tree? Because you would go out back and the filbert is just covered in bees.
There actually was a swarm. It might have been, not when you came out, but before.
But it was, I'm not disbelieving you, but when I came out, it was just like covered in bees. And hazels are primarily wind pollinated, but I think that all of those bees were out because it was warm enough for them to be flying and they were hungry and there's just like a pollen smorgasbord for them out there. Ham. Yeah, they were going ham. It was really cool. Yeah. It's all about survival of the fittest.
Well, that's a very oversimplified way of thinking about evolution, but honestly I can't even get into that right now.
You mean for people or for
people and animals?
Yeah, for people it's definitely not true. It's not the fittest that survived. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there's just, in many ways, there's been... because that's not true. That is not the only factor of evolution. That's not the only thing that defines evolution. Mm-hmm. But people will, like, push back against research talking about other aspects of nature other than survival of the fittest because they don't like it. Like, sexual selection was not really proven or recognized by the academic world until the 80s because people didn't want to think that it was a factor, and actually it's a huge factor in evolution. It has nothing to, well, it partially has to do with being fit because, like, sexual selection often is about bright colors and displays, and, like, there is a factor,
but sometimes
like, you have to be healthy enough to have those displays.
That's fine. Go ahead, yeah.
But it just, like, people who were so firm in that it's only survival of the fittest didn't want to even think that choice was a factor in evolution at all.
Yeah. Well, and sometimes males of the species can be so flamboyant to be appealing to the females of the species that it actually hinders their survivability, right?
Yeah.
It makes them
Nature is so much more complicated than that, so.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm counting. You're gonna have to check. Oh, I think you just hit my, okay. I have to count stitches for a second, so I'm sorry, you have to,
The paper that actually proved, I mean, we knew for a long time that sexual selection existed, but largely also it's because of sexism, people didn't want to acknowledge it. But the paper that definitively proved that it was a huge factor in evolution was, oh gosh, I forget the name of the bird. It's a bird with a really long tail. It lives in Africa. And the way that they went about proving it is so funny. So they wanted to prove that longer tails were chosen by the females. Males that had longer tails were chosen by the females to reproduce. So how do you think they would go about that? Would they maybe, like, find a population and, like, measure the length of all their tails and then measure how successful all of the males were with their breeding, and then see, like, if there's a correlation between success in reproduction and the natural length of the tail? No, that's not what they did. What they did is they took these birds, they cut their tails off, and they taped the tails onto other birds. So you had birds with no tails and birds with ridiculously super long taped on tails. And it actually worked because all of the females went to the birds with the taped on tails and nobody else got any. In fact, the normal tailed birds were just as unsuccessful as the birds with no tails because they loved long tails so much.
But a long tail is more genetically expensive, right? It's like more risk. It's much more expensive for the males than to have a short tail.
And you see some of these bird species, their tails are so huge, like they can't even fly. Like, it is absolutely a hindrance. It does not make them fitter. It is just... Yeah, it's much more.
Someone says they what?
Welcome
to science in the 1980s.
And this was only the 80s. You should see some of the papers I read from the Soviet Union. They're just doing whatever.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, the paper I had to fight tooth and nail to get about varroa mites on bees. From the Soviet Union. Maybe I still have it somewhere. I should read it on live too. It's so funny.
I love the way I'm looking at Berkeley's article on this study, and I love how it calls it the quandary of female choice. I think so much we're talking about sexism in biology is they didn't want to perceive of evolution being driven by female choice.
Yeah, it's not just that they wanted it to be nothing but survival of the fittest and the strongest. It's specifically that the female birds were having any say at all in driving evolution. I'm sure if it was the male birds who were having this sexual selection, there would have been less pushback. But it was like, oh, this is the feminist agenda. But actually, it's just science.
Someone said Soviet science is my favorite.
I was just reading about how many how many documents the Soviet Union forged to the International Whaling Commission over the course of 40 years. It was over 100,000 because they didn't want to just withdraw, so they like just pretended. Why didn't they just withdraw like Japan? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to secretly.
Somebody said there's a fungal remedy to varroa mites.
Oh, interesting.
We're both beekeepers. That's a controversial subject in and of itself, whether or not beekeeping is something that people should be engaged in North America, where bees are an introduced naturalized species. But yeah, I keep bees too. Yeah.
Well, I'll give my very quick 2 cents. Bees are, Eurasian bees in North America are technically an invasive species. But when people say that and they attack people for buying honey and for keeping bees, and they say we need to exterminate these bees, what they don't understand is that, one, the honey you buy is probably from Europe or Asia. Like, the majority
a lot of
it
it's from
is.
China
A lot
and
of it's from
adulterated.
China.
Yeah.
But 2, exterminating a beehive, when you call an exterminator, they are going to use pesticides and poisons that will kill these bees, and that is the biggest threat to native bees. So when you are poisoning these introduced bees, that is so much more harmful to the environment overall, but also to native bees to even use those chemicals in the first place. Mm-hmm. And so the bees that we keep, we get from people in our neighborhood who were going to call an exterminator to use poison, and instead, when we take these bees and use them in our yard, we're not like introducing more bees, we're doing is keeping people from using poison. Mm-hmm. So it is a net, even though we are utilizing an introduced species, it is a net benefit to native bees to stop people from using exterminators. Never ever use an exterminator. They're up there with chiropractors.
I think, oh girl, you're gonna start a fight in the comments.
I will.
The way that I pursue beekeeping is that we don't buy bees. I don't participate in bee breeding. That's how you end up with genetically fragile bees that are susceptible to things like varroa mites and other diseases. But because bees are already naturalized here, there are an abundance of swarms. So Portland Urban Beekeepers actually has a swarm line, and in the spring you can sign up and you'll get a text. It's actually not unlike an Ice Watch group. It's not like unlike a rapid response Ice Watch group. You get a text and it'll be like,
it's first come, first serve.
First come, first serve.
Get there before the exterminator does.
A ball of bees the size of a football or the size of a beach ball, or no, that's not too big. That's too big. The size of a basketball.
Big.
Yeah. Is located so many feet off the ground at this address. First come, first serve. And I think it's really helpful that they tell you how many feet off the ground it is, because some people will bring their pickup truck and then put a ladder in the back of their pickup truck. I'm not getting on a ladder. So I'll get bees that I can reach from the ground. Those are bees that, when they're swarming, are either going to end up in the walls of somebody's house or business, or they're going to end up in a tree and become a bee tree, where they will likely be listed as a nuisance, and people will be scared of them and they will get pesticided, right?
Yeah.
And so we are giving those bees a home, even though technically they are not native. I plant a crap ton of pollinator habitat, right, for all kinds of bees. I have a huge amount of native bees in my yard, just like, oh my gosh. My favorite bee is the longhorn bee. Tons of longhorn bees in my yard. And so we give our bees a home. I try to make sure there's water and there's enough forage. Most of our bees are not actually foraging in my yard. They're going as many as 2 miles away from our house. And honeybees here really like blackberries. That's the big thing, is invasive Himalayan blackberries is the number one forage source for bees. That's when they really build up their honey and pollen stores in like May. So that's sort of how we approach beekeeping, is that we just, like, the swarms are already here. We're giving them a home. And also it reduces how much sugar that is produced through entirely unsustainable means with largely exploited labor that you have to consume. Like, there's, if you're looking at sweeteners, the options for like truly sustainable sources, it's really how do you reduce harm. So yeah, sorry, I'm yapping about bees. Go ahead.
No, yeah. Well, the thing is, we got bees because you were scared of bees and allergic to bees, and you wanted to get over your fear of them, but you didn't really get over your fear of them. So I kind of just never was afraid of them. and I kind of do a lot of it.
I did see somebody in the comments said you didn't respond to my comment. I am sitting a little bit far away from my old lady eyes, so I am not actually reading most of the comments. I'm having a hard time seeing them. So I'll keep leaning forward. I'm
half reading.
Okay.
Or like...
So I'm sorry if I missed your comment. I'll see if it comes back around again. Since Alaska is warmer. By the way, if folks from Alaska, bees are coming up there, whether you like it or not. Yeah, I know that it's too cold here for us to have Africanized bees. I do know because of climate change, Africanized bees are spreading their range in the southern United States, and there is some concern that they could get to Oregon eventually. Mm-hmm. We almost had no winter this year, so...
I'm still waiting for winter. Where's the frost? Where's the snow? We haven't had one hard frost.
Yeah.
It's like 55 every single day. I feel like we're still in like mid-fall. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking up something while we're yapping. I was going to say, speaking of Alaska, I saw that Mary Peltola is running for senator in Alaska. She is an Indigenous woman who was elected to Congress and then got voted out, and now she's running for Senate. So that was pretty awesome news to hear that she was willing to run for that position. She's pretty dope. Okay. Minus 55. No, thank you. I don't want to go somewhere where it's minus 55. It was 50 degrees here in Portland, and it's been weird and dry. Ruth and I went for a little hike today. It was very windy, but we've had a lot of high pressure, so it's been really dry, and we've spent a lot of time trying to do some hiking. Mm-hmm. Not that we don't hike in the rain. We do a lot of hiking in the rain.
Yeah, I love to hike in the rain.
And we were hiking today, and around one of the trees, there were boletes. I didn't take time to identify which kind there were, but that's a little weird for January to have a flush of boletes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird weather.
Yeah. We actually don't have any beehives right now because the kinds that we have, they don't live, or they don't stay there or live for more than a couple years, and we've been doing it for over 10 years, so we've actually cycled through multiple hives, so we actually don't have any right now.
The overwinter survival rate in Portland is between 45 and 55% for European honeybees, so a lot of people have to refill their colony. Yeah,
I would say our bees have survived they survive the winter about 60 to 70% of the time.
Yeah. So
we've had some for multiple years, and we've had some for just 1 year.
Portland is good for hiking. Texas, not so much. I loved hiking in Texas.
I've never been to Texas.
Yeah, it's very humid, and ticks. We would get lots of ticks hiking as kids. You have to. It would be really hot, and you would have to wear long pants, and then you put duct tape around your pants because otherwise you get ticks. We don't have ticks in this part of Oregon. Yeah. I use Saskatchewan bees. We here, because we catch wild bees. What?
Speaking of bees.
What? Oh, my other kids in the chat. Hi, Bee.
Mom, my computer
is not working. Help. Okay.
She called me earlier to deal with this, and I helped her, but as much as I could.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything you can help with. The screen just went black.
The screen went black?
I told her to email her teacher and try rebooting it and calling the tech support.
Yeah. It's not a very old computer. Wow. Sorry, kiddo, that my college student is dropping into my live to try and reach me from a different city. Sorry, kid. I hope that you were able to get your homework done. I'm sure that that's not stressful at all, trying to get your poli-sci and pre-law done with no working computer. It's now stuck on the idle screen. Well, I am not
Sucks to be you.
I'm not going to be able to help you from here, kiddo. I'm pretty shaken about... Okay. I'm going to decline. 13 people want me to co-host with them. I've never done lives. You know, you see those lives where people have like a whole panel of folks that they're co-hosting with. We did one with pre-existing condition, but I don't really co-host with a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. I have done tech support over the phone for my kid before. Yeah. I'm pretty useless when it comes to computers and technology, so I've never done a live here. I'm just trying to figure out how to use them. I still don't know all of the different techniques and things that people do. I know a lot of my mutuals go on live all of the time. I don't really have time in my life for that, but also our house is small and there's a lot of people and it's loud. So typically late at night is when I tend to go on lives. And I know that folks on my YouTube, I had a tremendous amount of feedback. I have a much bigger presence on YouTube than I do on TikTok. And folks ask me, why are you doing TikTok lives instead of YouTube lives? I just haven't learned how to use YouTube live function yet. So I probably will start doing lives over there. Oh, hi from Tucson. Hi, I lived in Tucson.
Every Zoom,
I lived in Tucson. I don't know. Anytime people mention Tucson, I have to mention Brad Lancaster. I don't know if you're a fan of his. He is probably one of my favorite permaculture people in the entire world. He is in Tucson and he is just like, oh my gosh. His book, Rainwater Harvesting for Drylands and Beyond, it's a manual for anybody who wants to learn how to harvest rainwater. And he's just so... He's such an encouraging person.
B, what does that say?
I don't know what she's saying.
Whole milk gate?
What are my thoughts on whole milk gate? Girlfriend, what is whole milk gate?
I don't know.
Okay, you can't make fun of B. She's dyslexic. So that's real milk.
I actually don't know what she means.
I don't know what whole milk gate is either. I'm sorry. Can't say
I'm familiar.
Okay, well,
Whole Milk Hotel.
Will you Google Whole Milk Gate for me? Because I can't multitask. So, I'm going to talk about Brad Lancaster for a second. So, in Tucson, Arizona, there is a monsoon season, right, when there tends to be a tremendous amount of rain that comes down very, very quickly. Behind our house in Tucson would have this wash, and my mom would be really scared of me playing in the wash during monsoon season because it would flood, and then all these garnets would come up out of the sand. Anyway, so obviously Tucson is the Sonoran Desert, and a lot of the year they really have a shortage of water. And Brad Lancaster observed that during heavy rains, all of this water would run down the street and then run into the storm drains, or it would pool in locations right
on here, girl?
Downhill. It's just melting ice.
And orange stuff all over it.
I don't know. And so Brad noticed that, well, if you illegally, right, like kind of guerrilla go in and do these curb cuts, you can divert the water running off down the street into people's yards and into their gardens. And so he would create these wells. He would cut the curb illegally and he would harvest rainwater and produce this just like lush oasis along the edge of the street with these huge mesquite trees would grow, tons of shade. Suddenly it's cooling the neighborhood. Totally illegal. And he did it for his whole street. And it was so popular that they actually changed the law in Tucson. So it's now policy to cut the curb. Thank you, Ruth. To cut the curb and allow that water to get diverted into curbside plantings and to harvest the rainwater that way. And to me, Brad just embodies somebody who decided it was better to ask forgiveness than permission. And he changed the whole culture and changed the law.
Forgiveness.
Yeah. Okay. Go back to the bees. Would you consider yourself to be a conservationist? I have a really complicated relationship with conservation because I did a video, I don't know, a couple months ago about there is an awful lot of, like,
Martha for B.
what are you doing, girl?
B said grab Martha.
Okay. In conservationism, I think there's an awful lot of white supremacy, and there's also an awful lot of just having a really antagonistic view of people. It's a lot of conservation has that perspective we were talking about earlier of humans versus people instead of humans are part of the, humans versus the ecosystem instead of humans are part of the ecosystem. And that my perspective is that we are part of nature instead of separate from it. So how can we be a resource? And a lot of conservation is, right, John Muir, Audubon, like white men coming in and saying we should set apart this area for pristine wilderness. When those areas never were pristine wilderness, that was never a thing. Indigenous people always had a relationship with the land, shaped the landscape, shaped the species. And so for me, I would hesitate to say that I'm a conservationist just because conservation measures in the United States have very much been driven by the perspective of white men who have come in and failed to understand the way that Indigenous people have increased biodiversity and shaped the landscape in a positive way. So, yeah.
Audubon, by the way, who ate every single bird that he ever drew. Did you know that? Fun fact. including the bald eagles and yeah.
Sorry, that was a clumsy answer. It is 11:30 at night. Ruth, what's whole milk gate?
I don't know. It's not anything.
B, what's whole milk gate?
I would consider myself a conservationist. I mean, it's in my degree title, but I still do think it's very important to recognize the ways in which white supremacy has been pushed in the name of conservation and how our understanding of effective conservation is still evolving and shouldn't be based on what like Audubon was doing.
Mm-hmm. Someone said, what's your degree? Ruth's...
Fisheries and Wildlife Conservation Sciences.
Mm-hmm. And a minor in German. Mine's in biology, and my focus was on avian cognition.
Martha, you farty. You farty Marty. She has to poop.
Argument. Thank you. Who is Martha?
Martha Stewart is our little rodent.
Martha's actually, I don't know if Bee's still in the comments. Martha is Bee's dog. So she was my sister's dog. She's a rescue from Mexico City. There is a wonderful, she's a hamster. She is way too fat to be a hamster. She came from an organization, she's a 10-pound hamster. An organization called Meximutts, which is a wonderful group here in Portland. And they adopt basically small street dogs from Mexico City.
Small, frail, dying street dogs in Mexico City.
And they bring them up to Oregon and people adopt them. So
she was found, she just had a litter of puppies and she was found eating another dog and she was found skin and bones. She's hardcore, she's metal, but she's so sweet. She loves everyone. She's so well behaved. But she's very food motivated. You look away for 1 second, your entire plate is gone.
Yeah, so my sister adopted her, and then my sister had another dog that's also from Meximutts that is also very sweet, small dog. He hates Martha, and
he would literally beat her up. He's small, but he would like...
So she came to live with us because she got along with our poodles, and also Bee adopted her, basically. She's very sweet. She had to have an emergency surgery last year that was, oh my God, it was so expensive. Oh my God.
She ate some string.
She eats everything, and she also likes to lick everything.
Also, they said it could have been something she ate on the street before we adopted her. That was just ruminating in there.
Yeah, so she ended up getting a bowel obstruction from basically like string that then had hair wrapped around it, and it was touch and go, but she survived. And then packed back on all the weight that she lost. She's very, very, very sweet. She's very, very sweet.
I used to take her to the nursing home, and she's just so well behaved. I would just like hand her to all the old ladies with dementia, and they would talk about their dogs, and they were little. She is great with everyone.
Yeah. We've talked about getting her therapy dog certified. When my dad was in the nursing home, he would love to see her, but then Ruth would definitely take her around to everybody else, and she just wants to be held and adored, and she's very, very, very chill.
Her survival strategy was to just feign being a little itty-bitty baby so that all of the other dogs would think she's not a threat. So, like, she just acts like a baby all the time. She's always, like, squeaking and me.
Mm-hmm. She's very submissive with other dogs. Like, don't hurt me. I'm not a threat to you. I'm just a little tiny baby. And
she's so fast. The second they turn their back, she eats their food.
Yeah.
She's a great hunter. She will jump and catch flies out of the air. She will catch mice. She'll do everything. You have to have her on a leash in the backyard.
Her dream, if she's in the backyard, if there's like a vole or a bird or a squirrel, she'll go for it, and I bet she would catch them if she was not on a leash. She's so fast. Anyway.
She could be like a rat terrier.
Yeah.
If we had. Yeah.
She sounds like a vicious, sweet angel baby. Yes, that's exactly what she is. Yeah.
She's sweet to humans, but vicious to her prey.
Yeah.
She's hardcore.
Sorry, Bee. Sorry, Bee, that you miss her. We're taking good care of her. Till you can get her back.
She loves to snuggle with our old poodle Apollo. She loves to like sit on his butt or like on his back. Like, I don't know, guard him.
We had 2 standard poodles. I've always had poodles. I'm allergic to shedding dogs, and Martha is part poodle, so she doesn't really shed. She has to get a haircut. So we had 2 standard poodles that we adopted when they were age 5. Nobody wanted them, so we got them from Poodle Oregon and Poodle Rescue Oregon. It's late. It's late. And they had failed multiple other adoptions, but they were great here. And our female passed away last year. So her brother, Apollo, this is like a cautionary tale about why you should never have litter mates adopted together. They can get that litter mate syndrome where sometimes they're really awful to each other, but sometimes they become incredibly codependent. Our dogs were really codependent. So siblings from the same litter should never have been adopted together, but they were papered. Their dad was an AKC champion. Their mom was a therapy dog. Apollo didn't do very well when his sister passed away. So Martha is now his therapy dog. She sleeps on top of him or next to him. She's like a constant comfort to him, and takes really good care of him. They're like this. Yeah. You mean like normal siblings? Yeah, not normal siblings, not normal siblings, but litter mates with dogs. You're not supposed to adopt them together. It's just to separate litter mates, which I only learned about because of our dogs. Yeah, we never had 2 dogs before. Yeah, and for a while we had 3. So anyway, sorry we're yapping about our dogs. And thanks for letting us talk about bees and conservation and monarchs and things that we don't normally talk about. I really long for the time when we can just talk about like the natural world, like food cultivation, conservation.
It's important to talk about too.
Yeah.
If we run out of monarchs, they're gone forever.
Yeah. We're thinking about folks in Minneapolis. I think that it's totally reasonable that people can't focus on other things considering what's happening in the U.S. Yeah, we all have to set aside so much for the folks in Minneapolis. Out here in Portland, I think a lot of the protests are at the moment, a lot of the violence that's being done is focused at the ICE facility, which is not near my house. And then there are people that are routinely being snatched from our part of Portland. Somebody from my neighborhood was taken just a couple of days ago. In East Portland, ICE has a pretty heavy presence. And then in the suburbs on the west side, Beaverton, Hillsborough, Woodburn, et cetera, there's a lot of agriculture. And so there's a lot of migrant agricultural workers that are being snatched by ICE right now in Oregon. Yeah.
Yeah. Everything in agriculture is very, very political.
Yeah. I know that here in Portland, it can seem like, people talk about how very white Portland is, but East Portland is predominantly not white, and we have a really high immigrant population. And so our part of town is really vulnerable to ICE. And I think that how do I want to say it? I think that sometimes people can perceive a lot of the ICE focus as happening in the more rural parts that are more agricultural outside the city. But this is a really immigrant dense part of the city, even if it's not highly agricultural. And so they definitely are focusing here as well a lot. Yeah. And then Gresham, which is the next district out, next suburb out. Gosh, I'm so tired. It's going for midnight. And tomorrow morning there is a meeting with our senator. He's doing a town hall tomorrow morning to go to. It's a permaculture thing. Water. Oh, cool. We have rain barrels. That's the only kind of water collection that we do, and we don't really purify them.
Mostly just use them for bird water.
Yeah, use it for chicken water. Yeah, because it doesn't.
It basically just offsets what would be our water bill for in the winter when we can't collect rainwater.
Water is incredibly expensive in Portland. City water is really expensive. And you're allowed to have rain barrels. I know some municipalities in the United States, it's illegal to collect rainwater, but here in Portland you can for rain barrels. Yeah. Yeah, because it doesn't rain here in the summer at all. So you have 3 months of dry weather, and that's when people need that water that they stored up in the spring.
Not to rush things up, I'm kind of getting a headache with the bright light. Do you know how much longer?
I think we are running down. If you need to dip, you can totally dip, and I can answer questions, especially...
Okay. I can be on for a few more minutes.
Okay. I know you don't like this ring light. It's so dark.
It's okay.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. we're here to talk about whatever you want. I thought it would be a good evening to just take a break from the normal political stuff. That's why we were talking about monarchs and beekeeping and other things like that. I was gonna knit.
All highly political.
They're political. I was gonna knit. I'm making progress on this sweater, but I've been yapping the whole time, and so I haven't been working on it. I'm getting ready to do the buttonholes in the front. I don't know if you can see. This is the back of it. It's a little bit too big. It's gonna be a little bit big for me, but I'm getting ready to do the button band in the front, and that requires counting, so I know where to place the buttonholes and not mess up. So then I haven't been working on it because I've been yapping and I can't do the math while I talk. But I'm almost done. It's actually not going to be a sweater. It's going to be a sweater vest. Because I'm always freezing. So I like having wool that I can wear. Yeah. You're wearing... I didn't knit this. I wore this a couple weeks ago and people asked if I knitted it, and I did not knit it.
You knitted...
It's from the thrift store.
It's from Pendleton.
Yeah, it's Pendleton. Yeah.
You knitted this, though.
I did knit that.
The famous halibut pattern.
Since Ruth is a fish and wildlife person, when this halibut pattern got released, I was like, oh my gosh, I have to buy this immediately. Halibut fishing is pretty big here in Oregon, and also a lot of Oregonians go up to Alaska to go halibut fishing, like competitively. So I knew that I had to knit it for her. I have a little bit of a love-hate relationship with this pattern. It was really fun to knit. I changed the pattern here. This was all a lot simpler, and I just wanted to make it a little bit more complicated. Yeah, I don't know. The original pattern, there is a top down, and people say that it has bat wings. The yoke is really deep, and so I made Ruth a cardigan instead, which is not the original pattern. I just used the fish motif, and then I used a different cardigan pattern. Yeah, and it's all wool, so it's warm.
I love wool.
Yeah.
Sailors are right.
Yeah, especially for here in Oregon, like Ruth worked on the Oregon coast in the summer where it's quite chilly. Wool keeps you really warm when you're down at the ocean, and cotton does not. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, folks in Minneapolis. Hi. I hope y'all are doing okay. Wool is required. Yes. I don't really knit with synthetic fibers at all anymore. Because to me, it just feels like that's microplastic pollution. Sometimes people give me yarn that has some nylon in it, but I don't typically knit with anything that's not natural fiber. Yeah.
I really like to do wool needle felting. That's my big thing. I guess I haven't really done it recently because I've been so busy, but I just really like that it's a hobby that doesn't require any plastic. I know I'm a bit pedantic and hippie about that, but when I do other things like painting with acrylic paints, or I don't know, a lot of people like to make like stickers or buttons, or like get their art printed as on keychains. But all of that involves single-use or thicker than that plastic. And I just really like being able to create something. Or like plush making. If you use faux fur, it's going to be plastic. I really like to make something, I can make anything I want, and it's like tactile and fuzzy, but it's not plastic. So shout out to wool.
Yeah, I like something that I can compost at the end of its life.
We should do a live stream where I show off my needle felting collection, because it is very extensive, and I don't really post it online ever. I don't know.
You should.
Because I've always been like, I'll just make another account for my needle felt, and then I never do.
All my kids have entirely different hobbies from me. Nobody else... You guys sew a little bit, but not a lot, and nobody else really knits. Like, they all know how to knit, they just don't.
I've had one knitting project for like 2 years that I haven't finished. I should finish that bunny hat. I was gonna do it for Christmas, and then I didn't. I wanna get more into sewing. I used to do like cosplay sewing more when I was more into cosplay. I made Plo Koon's mask from Star Wars. I've made a lot of like ears because I'm a furry. Stuff like that, tails. But I kind of want to do more ambitious things. I would really like to do like history bounding. My ultimate dream is I would love to make some of the costumes from The Terror 2018. Has anyone seen that?
Just you, girl.
1800s.
Just you.
Sir John Franklin expedition. Navy outfits. That's a little ambitious, though. I really don't small cosplay stuff.
Yeah. There was something I was going to say and I completely just ran out of my head because it's so late. I'm learning how to history bounding too. Oh yeah, history bounding was really big in 2020. I like a lot of history bounding clothes. I'm really tall. People are always surprised when they meet me in real life, and I'm really tall, and so I make a lot of my own clothes so that they're long enough, especially skirts and pants. And so I really like long skirts. So history bounding is something I've always enjoyed quite a bit. Which is where you make like clothes. If you don't know what history bounding is, they're kind of an homage or either straight up accurate period construction of your garments, or they can just be an homage to a certain period in history. Yeah. I'm super tiny. Which is why you learn to sew. Yeah. Yeah.
So tailoring is sort of a lost
Good night. Please
art
take
in
care.
our
Please
day.
take care, Carrie. Yeah, I think for me, as a 6 foot tall woman, pants and skirts were always going to be too short, and so I learned how to sew in high school so that I could make a lot of my own clothes. Miranda's. Oh, hi, Miranda's husband. Hi, nice to meet you. Yeah, cool. Same problem, different direction. Yeah, all of our family's really tall. My third kid is 6'7", and he has to stop growing before I will make him any more clothes. I used to sew him outfits, and then he would outgrow them in like 3 months. So I'm not hand sewing him any more clothes until he stops growing. We do have to order clothes from him from American Tall. If you have a really tall kid, actually get some of my pants from American Tall too. If you have a really tall kid, like 6'7", that's the only place you can find pants that are long enough, and they are. Oh my God, they're so expensive. But anyway, yeah. Hi, how's it going? Yeah, I don't know. What else do you want to yap about for the last few minutes? I'm trying to avoid like heavy political content for the moment. It's hard for me to not want to steer back that way and talk about that stuff.
I guess maybe whales should be another live
Yeah, we're gonna
stream.
talk about whales in another different live stream.
Talk about SeaWorld.
How dare the children keep thriving?
GG2 and JJ.
You have no idea how big your grocery budget will just get, like, it just balloon and balloon and balloon until you have 2 teenage sons. It's like that comic strip, Foxtrot, right? Where he eats like an entire pizza. I'm gonna get a warning that we're gonna end in 5 minutes. That's what it's like to have 2 teenage boys, especially when they're both growing like weeds. It's unbelievable how much they can eat. Have you ever been to the Renaissance Festival in Minnesota? I have not. Do y'all know what it's like? We've been to the Oregon Renaissance Festival. Been to Renaissance Festival in Ohio and San Antonio and Tucson.
You know what it might have been? I put a ton of lime juice in my drink.
You have a headache?
Like I'm getting a migraine.
Girl, go take something. I would love to go. My aunt was from St. Paul, my great aunt, who Ruth is named after. She didn't have any kids, and I would go visit her in St. Paul. Came for the homeschooling content. I'm happy to do more lives about unschooling and homeschooling, right? You don't mind talking about that, do you?
Yeah,
we can do that next time.
Talk about it. Do you know where the Earbuds are?
I do. I'll get you one.
Box will, like,
Go
non-functional.
Yes, in the linen closet. I'll let you dip. And I've got 2 minutes. I hope that everybody in Minneapolis is staying safe. I would love to go to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. I think it's good to think about what we want to enjoy in terms of culture and art, like now in the middle of all this and then after, right? I think that's really important to lean into that. Yeah, sleep well, everybody. Stay safe. I'm gonna dip out here. Ruth is getting a headache, so have her take some medicine. It's really late here in Portland. Thank you all for staying up really late with us, and take care. I have a meeting tomorrow with our senator, and then some organizing stuff to do. And then there's lots of protests over the weekend. I know here in Portland, there are several of them. So I hope that y'all are able to attend ones where you are, and everybody stay really safe. Stay safe and take care of each other, and y'all get some good night's sleep tonight.